Usually when we talk about death or we try to picture the afterlife, we just default to these incredibly somber, silent images.
Right, yeah, it's very quiet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, think about the traditional Grim Reaper. You probably picture this skeletal figure in a dark, quiet graveyard, maybe shrouded in a black cloak.
Mm-hmm.
Something very final, very cold, and above all, just very, very quiet.
It's a highly sanitized view of what happens when we die, I think. Because in traditional Western frameworks, we treat the end of life with a sort of polite, terrified silence.
Yeah, terrified is the right word.
Right. The goal is to, rest in peace. It's passive. The journey is over. The book is closed. And everyone is supposed to speak in hushed tones forever after.
Right. The ultimate library rules apply to eternity.
Exactly.
But what if we completely flip that script?
Right.
Imagine, instead of a silent, brooding reaper, you cross over and are greeted by a foul-mouthed, rum-drinking, wildly dancing mother figure.
Oh, yeah. It's a completely different vibe.
It really is. A woman who doesn't just, hang around the cemetery like a lingering ghost, but completely owns the real estate. And frankly, she laughs right in the face of death.
It is a radical departure from everything we are culturally conditioned to expect. And it fundamentally changes the entire landscape of what it means to pass on. Because it frames death not as an ending, but as a vibrant, chaotic continuation of community.
And that is exactly our mission for today's Deep Dives.
Yep.
Welcome, everyone. We are exploring the fascinating figure of Maman Brigitte from Haitian Voodoo.
Such a great topic.
It is. We're going to unpack how she completely redefines our understanding of justice, of survival, and honestly, what it means to be a mother goddess.
Yes, definitely.
Because I can promise you right now, she is definitely not baking you cookies.
She is absolutely not.
No?
And to truly understand her, we first have to understand the foundational premise of this specific belief system.
Right. The context is key here.
Exactly. In Haitian Voodoo, the dead do not just lie down and stop. Like we said, rest in peace is not the goal here.
Right.
When a person dies, they cross over into this massive, eternal, very active family called the Guide.
The Guide.
It's essentially a nation made up of everyone who has ever died.
It's like a buzzing metropolis of spirits. And at the head of this vast family, you don't have a solitary king sitting on a throne.
No, you do not.
You have a husband and wife who rule the whole thing together.
Right, as a team.
The husband is Baron Samedi, the Lord of the Crossroads, who is often depicted dressed like a very dapper undertaker.
But with the vocabulary of a sailor.
Yes, exactly. And his wife, standing right beside him, is Maman Brigitte. But what I find so compelling is that the cemetery itself answers to her first.
Yes, that matriarchal authority within the graveyard is where her story really begins.
Okay, let's get into that.
To grasp who Brigitte is, we have to look at the mechanics of how she establishes that absolute authority over her domain. Because every single graveyard, according to this tradition, has to have a mother before it has anyone else in it.
Wait, what does that mean practically? How does a graveyard get a mother?
It comes down to the very first burials.
Okay.
The first man ever buried in a newly established Haitian cemetery automatically becomes an offering to Baron Samedi.
Oh, wow.
But the crucial one is the first woman buried. She becomes a direct offering to Maman Brigitte.
I see.
And it's not just a spiritual nod. There's a physical manifestation of this. A specific stone cross is raised over that first woman's grave.
So that first grave isn't just a marker, it's like an anchor.
Precisely. Think of it like the cornerstone of a massive cathedral, or even better, the central taproot of an ancient tree.
I like that image.
Yeah, that specific cross becomes the foundational anchor for the entire cemetery. Every single grave that is dug after it, every person buried there for generations, literally borrows their protection from that one central cross.
Wow.
The spiritual security of the entire space radiates outward from her offering.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second. That completely changes the dynamic of how we view a spirit in a graveyard.
It really does.
She isn't just some spooky apparition floating between the tombstones, just haunting the place.
Right.
She's more like a tough-as nails landlord. Or like the woman who built the house herself, laid the foundation, and just dares anyone to question her ownership.
The distinction between haunting and owning is so vital here.
Yeah.
Haunting implies that a spirit is stuck, right? That they are a residual echo trapped in a location against their will.
Like they can't leave.
Exactly. Owning implies absolute sovereignty. She's the authority. She dictates who comes in, who is protected, and who gets cast out.
And she dresses the part of an absolute authority, too. I mean, from the text, she's marked by the colors purple and black.
Yes.
And she often has a black rooster at her feet.
That's her symbol, yeah.
But you mentioned earlier, before we started, that this religion doesn't just deal in metaphors or blind faith.
No, it's very grounded.
Right. So when a practitioner claims that Maman Brigitte has possessed them during a ceremony, there is a very intense way they prove it.
Oh, absolutely. What's fascinating here is that it's one of the most uncompromising standards of proof in any religious practice.
Really?
They don't rely on mystical intuition or just like take someone's word that a deity has arrived in the room.
They don't just say, oh, I feel her presence.
Exactly. There is a specific, brutal, physiological test.
Brutal.
Yes. To prove that Maman Brigitte is truly sitting inside a person's body, that person has to endure something that would incapacitate anyone else.
Okay, wait, like a spiritual polygraph test.
Much more visceral than a polygraph.
Okay.
It involves a specific drink she favors when she is properly fed. It is raw clarin.
Clarin, what is that exactly?
It's a highly potent, unaged sugarcane spirit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's already incredibly harsh on its own. Just raw alcohol, basically. But this clarin is steeped with 21 hot peppers.
Wait, 21 hot peppers and raw alcohol.
Yes.
You literally wouldn't be able to swallow that. I mean, your throat would just close up.
Exactly. That's the point. But the possessed person either drinks this straight down without flinching, or, and this is even wilder, they rub it directly onto their skin, including sensitive areas like their eyes or their face.
Into their eyes. Oh, my God.
Yeah, an unpossessed human body could not do this without violently reacting. Screaming, tearing up, blistering.
Right, you'd end up in the hospital.
Exactly. It's physiologically impossible to fake.
That is wild. So the proof isn't in some grand speech the possessed person gives. The proof is entirely in what their body refuses to react to.
That's exactly it.
If the fire doesn't make the body flinch, then the spirit sitting in you is real.
It strips away any pretense of performative religion. It's a demand for raw physical honesty.
Yeah?
The test says if you claim to hold an ancient, powerful entity, your human reflexes shouldn't be functioning normally. It demands that the body hold still under something that should be completely unbearable.
So we have this incredibly vivid, intimidating image of her right now.
Very intimidating.
She's throwing back 21 pepper rum. She's draped in purple and black, guarding the graveyard cross.
Right.
You'd expect her physical description to match the sort of typical iconography of the region. But this is where things take a completely unexpected turn in the source material.
Yes, this is a major twist.
What does she actually look like?
This is where we uncover a massive historical puzzle. In the tradition, she is usually pictured as pale, with very sharp features, red gold hair, and eyes the color of storm water.
Pale with red hair.
Yes.
In the middle of the Haitian Vodou pantheon.
Yes. She is the only major spirit, or Iwa, in the entire pantheon who is said to have crossed over to the Caribbean not from West Africa, but from Ireland.
Wait, Ireland?
Yeah. She is carried in the memory of the ancient Celtic goddess Brigitte.
Okay, I have to pause you there because that sounds like a historical impossibility.
I know, it sounds crazy at first.
Brigitte is the Celtic keeper of poetry, right? The forge, the healing well. How on earth do two completely different marginalized groups, Irish people and enslaved Africans, essentially merge their gods?
It's an incredible story of survival.
Like, how does a Celtic goddess of poetry become a Vodou death spirit drinking pepper rum?
Right. To understand that, we have to look at the brutal mechanics of the 17th and 18th century Caribbean plantation systems.
Okay.
This wasn't a polite cultural exchange. This was a crucible. You had enslaved people stolen from West and Central Africa, and you also had thousands of displaced Irish and Scottish laborers.
Displaced how?
Many were deported by Oliver Cromwell, or they were political prisoners, or indentured servants. Both of these groups were thrown into the exact same horrific, oppressive environment.
So they were basically working side by side in the sugarcane fields.
Working side by side, suffering under the same brutal overseers, and both being systematically stripped of their cultures.
Stripped of everything, really.
Exactly. They were forbidden from practicing their own religions. But in that horrific proximity, they discovered a shared necessity for survival.
Wow.
They had to figure out a way to keep their gods alive when the ruling class was trying to completely erase them.
So how did they actually do it? If they were forbidden from practicing, how do they hide it?
They used a brilliant mechanism of spiritual camouflage. It's called syncretism.
Syncretism, right?
They learned to hide what they loved inside whatever their captors demanded they worship.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Right. The plantation owners forced Catholicism on them. So the enslaved Africans and the Irish laborers took the Catholic saints, whose statues and images were legally permitted, and used them as literal masks.
That is so clever.
You lay a Catholic saint's face over your ancient spirit's name. When the overseer looks, he sees you praying to St. Bridget of Kildare.
But underneath that name,
Underneath, you are invoking something much older and much more powerful.
it's a Trojan horse. You use the oppressor's mandated religion as a vessel to smuggle your own gods through history. But wait, why did Brigitte specifically translate so well?
That's a great question.
I still struggle to see how a goddess of the forge maps onto a landlord of the graveyard.
It actually makes profound conceptual sense when you break down what a forge is.
Okay, tell me.
The forge is a place of extreme heat, right? Where hard, unyielding things are melted down and transformed into something new.
Right, fire and metal.
It's about metamorphosis through fire. To the people surviving the plantations, what is the graveyard if not the ultimate forge?
Oh, wow.
It is the final place of transformation. And as for the poetry aspect, well, in ancient Celtic traditions, poets weren't just writing pretty verses.
What were they doing?
They were the truth tellers. They were the historians, the ones who remembered the debts and the wrongs.
Oh, wow. So remembering the truth and transforming through fire.
Yes.
That is exactly who Maman Brigitte is. She just evolved to meet the specific nightmare of the plantation.
Exactly. She is the ultimate masterclass in adaptability. And she doesn't just stay locked in that pale red-haired image either.
She changes.
Yeah, in the houses that raise her today, she can just as easily arrive as an old, sharp-eyed Haitian woman who is completely merciless with fools.
I love that.
Because an ancient spirit of survival doesn't owe anyone a single fixed face. She becomes whoever her people need her to be to survive the current era.
That fluidity is really fascinating. I mean, death itself doesn't wear a single fixed face. It adapts.
Yes, perfectly said.
But I'm really curious about how this translates to her personal life, so to speak.
Like a personal life.
Yeah. If she is this ancient, adaptable, totally uncompromising spirit, what happens when she goes home? Like, how does she actually manage her household alongside Baron Samedi?
Well, just because you're dead doesn't mean the interpersonal drama stops.
Right.
In fact, it might just get louder. Their dynamic is legendary.
Do tell.
She dances a traditional, highly suggestive dance called the banda. It's often described as a dance where her hips do most of the arguing.
That is quite the image.
But the most revealing detail about their marriage is what happens during ceremonies. She routinely, like right in the middle of a ritual, steals her husband's iconic top hat and cane.
Wait, she just takes his symbols of power right off him.
Right off his head.
Does she do that to undermine his authority? Is it a power struggle?
Not a struggle in the malicious sense, no.
Then why?
She does it largely for the sheer pleasure of it, honestly. But it serves a vital mechanical purpose within the pantheon. By constantly swiping his hat and cane, she prevents their marriage from calcifying into a rigid hierarchy.
Here's where it gets really interesting. So it's like a strategic prank.
Exactly.
An anti-hierarchical mechanism. Because if you are married for eternity, there is a real risk of falling into a boring, predictable power dynamic where he is the king and she is the subservient queen.
Precisely. It ensures that the power dynamic remains entirely fluid.
That's brilliant.
It's her way of reminding everyone that even the mighty Lord of the Dead, the King of the Crossroads, still has to answer to somebody.
He's not untouchable.
Exactly. It's a complete refusal to be subservient, even in the afterlife. And that vibrant, chaotic refusal to bow energy defines how the entire Guy family operates, especially during their biggest event of the year.
Right, the Feast of the Dead.
Yeah.
Which happens every year around the start of November. Tell me how this actually works, because it doesn't sound like a typical quiet memorial service.
Oh, not at all. It is a massive family reunion.
Okay.
The cemeteries fill up with living practitioners and the spirits of the Guide. There is drumming, copious amounts of rum, and bodies given over to possession.
People who have agreed to be possessed.
Yes, people who have agreed to be borrowed for the night so the spirits can eat, drink, and dance.
Wow.
It is thrown by people who absolutely refuse to be sad about death.
That sounds like a party. But it's also a time for accounting, right? It's not just about dancing.
Very much so. The Guide are meticulous accountants. If you owe a spiritual or physical debt to the Ged and you haven't paid it by the time the Feast of the Dead rolls around, Well, it gets collected afterward with interest.
Note to self, pay your debts.
You definitely do not want to be in debt to the people who own your eventual resting place.
No, you do not. Okay, so we have this picture of a wildly chaotic, obscenity-shouting, debt-collecting household.
Right.
It sounds super intimidating. But there's a detail in her story that totally shifted my perspective on what all this vulgarity is actually protecting.
Ah, yes.
Can you explain who Gedna Gebo is?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Gedni Nebo is a profoundly important figure in this context.
Who is he?
He is a young spirit, Aluwa, who suffered a violent premature death. He was murdered before his time.
Oh, that's awful.
In many spiritual frameworks, that kind of traumatic, untimely death leaves a soul untethered. They become wandering ghosts with nowhere to belong because their life was unnaturally cut short.
They just fall through the cracks of the afterlife.
Exactly. But Baron Samedi and Maman Brigitte did not let him wander.
What do they do?
They took him in. They essentially adopted him and made him family.
Wow. They gave a home to the wrongly dead.
Yes.
That completely changes how I view them. Like underneath the fiery rum, the cursing, and the stolen top hats, there is this incredibly deep well of compassion.
It really is.
The chaos isn't just for fun. It's a fiercely protective shell for the most vulnerable victims of violence.
It is the ultimate sanctuary.
Yeah.
And that compassion bridges us perfectly into what is arguably Maman Brigitte's most vital and heavy role in the pantheon.
Which is?
She is, at her core, a goddess of judgment.
But not the abstract philosophical kind of judgment, right?
Right.
She's not sitting on a cloud weighing a feather against a heart.
No. Her judgment is grounded in the dirt and the blood of reality.
Okay.
She is specifically invoked by people who have been harmed and have literally nowhere else to turn in the mortal justice system.
So people who have been failed by society.
Exactly. And more than anything, she guards women's graves first, and she remembers women's wrongs the longest.
So if a woman has been abused, silenced, or failed by the society she lives in, Maman Brigitte is like the court of final appeal.
Exactly. When someone lies gravely ill, it is Brigitte who makes the final call.
Really? Not her husband.
No, she assesses the balance of their life. She decides whether that person is healed and allowed to stay in the world of the living or if they are handed over to her husband to cross over.
Wow, she has the final say.
Yes. And in her hands, depending on the suffering of the person, either verdict can be an act of profound mercy.
Look, I think a lot of us are culturally conditioned to expect a mother deity to be soft.
Right, very nurturing.
We want our maternal figures to be gentle, polite, and quiet. So what does this all mean for how we view feminine divinity?
It challenges it completely.
It raises a really fascinating question, Why does a goddess who protects vulnerable women have to be so aggressive and vulgar? Why can't she be a gentle protector?
Because if we look at the mechanics of how the world actually operates, softness fails victims.
Softness fails victims.
Softness gets ignored by the men who do the harm. If Maman Brigitte were a gentle, polite goddess who always spoke nicely and followed the rules of decorum, she could never be trusted with this kind of consequential work.
Right, she'd be bound by the same respectability politics that silence human women every day.
Precisely. To enforce justice for the specific kinds of wrongs done to women, the abuses that polite society turns a blind eye to or just covers up, it requires a figure who is completely immune to shame.
Immune to shame. I love that phrase.
Society controls people by threatening their respectability. But you cannot threaten someone who is already shouting obscenities, drinking pepper rum, and dancing in a graveyard.
You can't cancel her.
Exactly. She operates entirely outside the constraints of polite society, which means polite society has absolutely no leverage over her.
That makes total sense. You need a champion who doesn't care if you call her vulgar, because the people who call her vulgar are usually the ones trying to avoid her judgment.
Yes, exactly.
It's no wonder she is known by the title The Dark One.
That's right.
And historically, being called dark is usually a negative thing in Western traditions.
Yes.
Associated with evil or corruption.
Yes.
But for her, it's like the highest compliment.
Yes, because she isn't dark like a shadow or like malice. She is dark the way rich soil is dark.
Dark like the earth.
Yes.
Full of decomposition, yes, but also full of everything that had to die so that something else could take root and grow. It's fertility, it's grounding, it's the ultimate transformation.
It is uncompromising truth. When you assemble all these fragmented pieces, the dark soil, the 21 pepper rum, the stolen hat that refuses a hierarchy, the adoption of the violently murdered youth, you weren't just looking at a quirky mythological figure.
No, definitely not.
You are looking at a deity who represents radical, unvarnished honesty.
Survival and justice, in their truest forms, are rarely pretty.
No, they aren't.
They aren't polite. They involve doing whatever it takes to protect the vulnerable, even if it means hiding your ancient gods behind a Catholic saint's face.
Right.
Or demanding that a possessed body swallow liquid fire to prove it's not lying. To stand at her graveside is really to be asked one fundamental question. Can you hold still and can you tell the truth even while it burns going down?
That is the crucible she presides over. Everything else about her, the black rooster, the swearing, the chaotic family dynamic, is simply what that kind of brutal honesty looks like once it has decided to drop the act, stop being polite, and actually enjoy itself.
Honesty enjoying itself. That's an incredible way to frame it.
It leaves us with a very compelling thought to reflect on, I think.
Oh, please share.
If we consider Brigitte's unapologetic nature, I would challenge you, the listener, to think about this. If your own core, unvarnished truth, the part of you that knows exactly who you are and what you've survived, had an avatar, what would it actually look like?
Oh, wow.
Would it sit quietly and politely in the corner, hoping not to offend anyone? Or would it demand space, dance wildly, and steal the boss's hat?
That is amazing.
It is certainly something to mull over the next time you feel pressured to make your own truth respectable.
I know. I'm definitely going to be thinking about that. And honestly, I don't think I'll ever look at a cemetery the same way again.
I hope not.
The next time I walk past those quiet, somber iron gates, I'm tossing out the image of the silent Grim Reaper.
Good riddance to him.
Right. I'm going to picture the woman who built the house, who laid the foundation stone, demanding the fiery truth, and just daring anyone to tell her otherwise. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.